The Notice of Privacy Practices is a compliance document that explains what the covered entity can and cannot do with PHI. The NPP regulation resides in Privacy Rule Subpart E. The Privacy Rule establishes the right of an individual to receive adequate notice of an entity's privacy practices. NPP templates can be purchased or copied from many different sources, but it must be tailored to fit the entity. The Privacy Rule requires 8 elements of content. The first element is a header with specific language. The second element is a list of uses and disclosures of PHI. The NPP must contain at least one example of treatment, payment, and healthcare operations. That's TPO for short. It must describe kinds of disclosures that require signed authorizations, such as psychotherapy notes. It must say authorization is required for the sale of PHI, and it must say authorization is required for marketing. The NPP must include separate statements for certain kinds of activities. If the entity intends to use PHI to raise funds, the NPP must inform patients of their right to opt out of fundraising solicitations. The NPP must include certain statements about individual rights. It must say the individual has a right to request restrictions, including a statement that the entity must agree to restrict PHI if the patient pays the provider in full. It must say the individual has a right to request confidential communications. And it must explain the right to copy and inspect patient records. It must say there's a right to request amendments to PHI, and a right to receive an accounting of disclosures, and a right to receive a paper copy of the NPP. The NPP must include certain statements about the covered entity's duties, such as breach notification. The NPP must provide instructions on how a patient may make complaints. It must have a statement that assures there will be no retaliation. The NPP must provide the title, address, and phone number of the contact person, and it must show the effective date. The Privacy Rule requires entities to distribute NPPs to patients when there is a direct treatment relationship. The provider must provide NPPs to all new patients and make a good faith effort to obtain the patient's written authorization of receipt. The provider must post the NPP in a clear and prominent location and make hard copies of the NPP available on request. Now we'll see how an NPP is revised in the town of Single Peak. Priscilla and her husband Hudson have practiced medicine in Single Peak for many years. In 1993, Pete became the privacy officer. As the practice grew larger and larger, Pete's management job got more complicated. He started whining and complaining, and he threatened to walk out. He told Hudson that someone else should update the Notice of Privacy Practices.
Priscilla, are you going to finish updating the NPP? We already missed the compliance deadline.
But aren't you the new privacy officer?
Yes, but you agreed to be the contact person. So the NPP is your responsibility.
All right, I'll ask Attorney Ann to help me.
Hi, Priscilla. Let's take a look at your current notice.
We created this in 2003.
First, we'll update the section on authorizations. Authorizations are required for psychotherapy notes, sale of PHI, and marketing. The NPP must also say, other uses and disclosures not described in the notice will be made only with the individual's written authorization.
Do we have to worry about new marketing restrictions? Because we want our patients to know about Dr. Kramer. We're using PHI for direct mail advertising.
The new high-tech regulations clarify the definition of marketing. You don't need authorizations to advertise your services. Authorizations are only required if advertising involves financial remuneration or payments for promoting a third party's service.
Dr. Kramer is not a third party, so it's not marketing. Is the coffee house a third party?
Are you encouraging patients to go there?
Yes, we give coupons for a free cup of coffee to patients.
A gift of nominal value isn't marketing.
Can we also help the coffee house sponsor the Bike Fiesta for Children's Health?
You mean the Chamber of Commerce fundraiser?
Yes, we're selling tickets for Dr. Kramer's bicycle team.
Yes, if your NPP includes a statement on fundraising. Certain categories of PHI can be used for targeting donors, but the NPP includes a statement about the patient's right to opt out of receiving such communications.
Can we send email messages about chiropractic treatment?
Yes, if the email isn't subsidized by a third party. You can send email communications, like appointment reminders, because such communications are for healthcare operations.
What about breach notifications?
Yes, you need to add a sentence to explain breach notification. You also need a sentence about restrictions. The provider must honor such requests if the patient pays out of pocket in full.
How should we distribute the new NPP?
You put a new poster on the wall and make hard copies available to patients. You could buy an updated HIPAA poster on the web, but I would be happy to customize one for your office.
Thanks, Anne. Let's do that.
If you decide to use pre-printed posters and brochures, make sure it follows California law and doesn't conflict with your office practices. Thanks for watching. We have more tutorials coming. Please send comments and suggestions to help us serve you better.